Young people are burning out everywhere, and it's a very bizarre and upsetting thing. As somebody who is still relatively young, I'm 26, I've seen this firsthand. I've seen colleagues, I've seen friends, family members, people I used to go to school with in college. They're just exhausted. And it's crazy because shouldn't people from, we'll say, 18 to 35 have the most energy and vigor and excitement and drive to push through even when times are tough? Shouldn't people of our age feel this ambition to just go forward no matter what? Well, yes and no. The thing is, there are so many variables at play which have made this the case. There are so many things that are happening not only within our personal lives, but within society as a whole and within the entire world, you could say, that has made so many young people feel burnt out and exhausted. So in this video, I'll discuss what's happening from obviously my perspective and what you can do about it, whether you're in Gen Z or older. First things first, everything is just way more expensive than what it used to be. It's funny, I was talking to my grandmother the other day who is 79, 80 years old, and she's seen things go from where they were when she was my age, 26, versus where they are now. And she's like, it's completely insane. She was telling me how when she was 24 years old, her and my grandfather, they bought the first house that they lived in. And I think she said it was like $18,000 or $20,000, which is insane. Now, she told me it was a small house and it didn't have much. They had like a quarter of an acre of land, but even still, it's like $20,000 for a two-bedroom home. You do not see that anywhere, at least in America these days. And she told me that within a couple of years, they paid it off fully and they were able to move into a bigger house because they began to have more kids. And their second house, they paid $60,000 for. This was in, I believe it was 1977, 76. $60,000. This was just 50 years ago. The average home in America right now, at the time of this recording, is over $400,000. And this is despite people not getting paid accordingly to match the inflation. I saw a statistic that for wages and the cost of living to match up compared to what it was like 40 years ago, minimum wage would have to be $60 an hour. I think minimum wage across the country is like $7, $8 an hour. It'd have to be $60 for it to match the inflation cost of how things are in 2026. And obviously that's never gonna happen. So that's one of the main reasons why so many young people feel burnt out and exhausted. People will get a degree, graduate with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and then they'll get a job for like 50K, 60K, maybe 80K. It takes people years to pay off their debts, but maybe by the time they pay it off, they're in their late 20s or early 30s. And then at that point, it's like, well, you have no money left over because everything you've been earning from your job, which isn't paying you enough to begin with, is just going to your debt. And then since you have no money, you're in your late 20s, early 30s, then how the hell can you buy a home? How can you start a family? How can you buy all these nice things and go travel and do things that maybe your parents or grandparents were able to do much easier? You can't, plain and simple. Stress from this is inevitable, and especially young people are facing this firsthand. But this brings me to the next point, number 2, which is unemployment. What I understand from the internet and from people I went to school with and some of my friends is that they are really struggling to get jobs even though they're more than qualified to get these jobs. And from what I understand, people are applying to hundreds, maybe even thousands of jobs, and then they're just never getting a call back. If we were to go back 15, 20 years ago, you might apply for 5 jobs, 10 jobs, maybe 20 jobs, and you're gonna get a call back. At least a call back, right? Or even worse, I've heard stories of people who are applying for jobs, they're getting a call back, and then they're doing like 5 rounds of interviews and then just getting ghosted. What the hell is that about? It's completely ridiculous. And supposedly there's this situation where employers are being forced to put these job postings online just to create the illusion that they're hiring, even though they're really not hiring. And That's all sorts of fucked up, if you ask me. Giving people this false hope, giving intelligent, qualified people false hope, and then just essentially shattering their dreams. Come on, man. It's just crazy. So that's another big reason why so many young people, especially Gen Z, as I've mentioned in this video, are really struggling. This is why we're feeling so stressed out and anxious. And it's also why this nihilistic viewpoint has really become so common. Young people are thinking, well, I was sold the dream of going to college and graduating and getting a good job and making money and building this family for myself and getting all these nice things. But now at 22, 23, 24 years old, I realized that it was all a lie. And this is why many people are simply retreating from society, you could say. It's why especially young men would rather stay home and play video games and watch inappropriate things online and drink, smoke, and do all these things that make them feel good in the moment, but ultimately don't really improve their life because they have this mindset that, all right, well, what the hell does it even matter? I'm never gonna pay off all my debt. I'll probably never end up getting a great job. I'll probably never end up running a business that I really want to run and making enough money because things are just so expensive. And yeah, so that whole idea of unemployment / lack of purpose is the second main reason why many young people are feeling burnt out. The third reason I want to talk about is dopamine hell. And when I say dopamine hell, I mean the overindulgence of content, of that immediate gratification stuff that I briefly mentioned. The spending 10 hours on social media, the video games, binge watching TV, going out to the clubs and the bars and drinking and hanging out with the wrong people, and yeah, all these things that essentially distract you from the reality of your actual life. These things feel great in the moment, but medium to long term, they don't help. And what they do is they dysregulate your nervous system even further, so that when it comes time to actually focusing or dialing in your nutrition or trying to do things that are better for your life, it feels impossible. And it's this one big cycle where people end up getting trapped doing the same thing day after day. Here's how it goes down. Things are overly expensive. Many people can't get jobs. Existential dread creeps in. People become nihilistic. All this fuses together, which leads to a mindset of, well, it doesn't really matter anyways. And as I mentioned, this contributes even more to these pleasure-seeking behaviors, which brings me to the fourth main point as to why many people, especially young people, Gen Z, are experiencing this dread and this anxiety and stress, and that is consumerism. Now, you've probably heard this before. Consumerism is the perfection of slavery, and I don't disagree. I do think there is certainly some truth to that statement. And of course, it's so much deeper than just social media consumption, but it's buying furniture, it's always buying new clothes, it's always buying new jewelry, it's always buying new things to make it look like you're living a better life than what you really are, just to impress people who really don't give a shit. And along with this, to go with the internet, we're gonna think all these different streaming services. There's Netflix, there's Disney, Hulu, Amazon Prime, there's HBO Max, and the list goes on and on and on of these things that are simply meant to just steal your money month after month, keep you entertained, you could say, keep you sedated, and keep you trapped. My dad and I were talking about this the other day, and something interesting he brought up was that in modern times, you see storage facilities everywhere. These are places, essentially big warehouses or big open lots with like these big crates for people to come in and just put their stuff in. He's like, yeah, when I was your age, there was none of that. None at all. And it's truly because people just keep buying more and more things that they really don't need, and then they simply don't have the space for it because the accumulation builds up. And we keep buying and buying and buying, but there's only so much space for us to put the things that we buy. There's a pretty interesting parallel between physical space being taken up by the things that we buy and mental space being taken up by all the things that we consume. All of this creates stress and anxiety and overwhelm, even if it's subconscious. And it does so in a way that makes it very difficult to function in everyday life feeling your best. There's a great quote in one of my favorite movies called Fight Club. And the main character, Tyler Durden, he says, advertising has us chasing cars and clothes, working jobs we hate so we can buy things we don't need. That movie came out in 1999, I believe, and it's 2026. Things have not changed at all. And in fact, things have gotten worse. And all these things I mentioned here, all these main reasons why Gen Z is feeling so burnt out and stressed, the expensive nature of our reality, unemployment rates, dopamine, consumerism, these aren't just things that Gen Z is experiencing. People of all ages, of all races and ethnicities and all social classes are experiencing the same thing. So the big question is, what can you do about it? And it's something I've been thinking about for a while. I don't think the answer is to just leave society. I don't think it's just to give up and allow things to keep getting worse and worse either. There are many different angles we could take, but the approach I'm taking is simply controlling what I can and letting go of the rest. Maybe this means doing things like living beneath your means. Maybe it means doing things like learning new skills in your free time so you can make more money and feel more fulfilled. Maybe it means working on your mental clarity and deciding to read books versus consume short form content online. Whatever, it's totally up to you. It's your life, you live it however the hell you want to live it. But what I do know is that when your nervous system is out of whack, when you're always stressed out, when you're always anxious, and when you're allowing external forces from reality to essentially drain your energy, then it makes living the optimal life very difficult. Look, I don't come from a wealthy family. I'm not independently rich. I am going through the same things that you're probably going through too. I get it. Life is difficult. Things are expensive. And it seems like the world wants to keep everybody in this stressed out, emotional, and reactive state. These things are beyond your control. They're beyond my control. But as I said, focus on what you can control and just let go of the rest. There's no sense in worrying about things that ultimately are way beyond what you can fix. Fix your world, fix your life, fix your mind. And to me, once you can do that, then whatever comes your way, you'll figure it out. I know it seems way easier said than done, and you might be shaking your head like, come on, man, like there's wars happening, prices are going up and up and up. It's like, yeah, I get it. As I said, I'm going through the same things that you are. I'm seeing the same things that you are. But ultimately, and I know this sounds super cliche, and you've heard this before, but nobody's coming to save you, all right? The burden falls on your shoulders. And if you have people you got to take care of, like a husband, wife, kids, parents, grandparents, whatever, then yeah, that burden is heavy. But you got to take some responsibility. Life isn't fair. Things are tough. And we're dealing with problems that even our grandparents couldn't even conceptualize at that time. But it is what it is. You just got to roll with the punches. This is exactly how you grow. And in today's day and age, we need people who are willing to take on the burden of responsibility and put forward their best efforts and be a good example for the generations coming behind us. So, yeah, those are my thoughts. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you soon.